Hello everyone and welcome back to week 3 part 2 of the 20 and 20 Ruby on Rails challenge. Like I said in part 1, this week we're building a quick portfolio application and we're doing this by using a third-party template. We're using an MIT license template, so if you are worried that you're not going to be able to follow along because you have to pay for something, don't worry. This is entirely for educational purposes, but it is also applicable if you do purchase a template yourself. So, at least there's that. This video is going to be a little bit shorter and we're just kind of going over some basics because I am doing Ruby for Good. So I'm trying to record these and get these up during the small amount of time that I have between our coding sessions. So I apologize in advance for that. So no lengthy intro today. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to jump into looking at the Start Bootstrap themes. Okay, so let's start from the startbootstrap.com page. So let's say that hypothetically this is the place where you eventually find the theme that you like and you either download it or buy it. In our case, I think the agency one is on the front page, but let's say, you're looking through here, you come into themes, you're looking for a portfolio and resume project, and you click through a couple of these. You can do like your live previews for each one. This is usually pretty standard across all application or all websites like this. They're obviously going to let you see what you're purchasing. But then let's say eventually you find the one you like and it's this agency one. And we can do the live preview. You can also view the code on GitHub. So if I open this in a new tab, they have all the code here, and usually they have like a download and installation set up, but all of this isn't going to be for Rails, obviously. So what we need to do is we can do the free download, which will give us a zip file. And then if I move this window over, I already have the zip file on my desktop. So if I open this, it comes with all of the CSS. Let me zoom in. It comes with all of the CSS, images, JS, and all of the other stuff that you need, as well as the index page. So if I open up this index page, you can see here that it looks just like it did on the website when you do the preview. But we're not looking at that right now. So what we need to do is we need to, close this. And you're going to have a couple options here. So generally when you have a third-party asset, you want to throw it under vendor. If it's a library or like a plugin or something, that probably goes under lib in the assets folder. But if it's something that you like purchase from someone, you probably want to put it under vendor. The other option is you have your app assets folder where you can, put your stuff in here. And you also have your public folder. So for this one, we're going to follow the same thing we did in week 2. I'm just going to drop this into the public folder because I feel like this is the easiest one to follow along with, like where the files are coming from. Personally, if I were doing this in my own project, I would probably put this under vendor, which will require you to do some imports from inside of your app assets, style sheets, as well as your JavaScript file. But for this one, we're just going to be using public, and if it's, a small project like this, I really don't think anyone's going to look at it and be like, wow, they're not using the vendor folder. What a noob. They'll probably just see that it looks good and see that you have your assets in your public folder, and then they'll just move along. So I really wouldn't worry about the details there too much. So what we have here is, it comes with basically everything. It also comes with this index.html page, which we are going to need to convert. So if I open up the server right now and I tab over to, any window, let me close all this. And then if I go to localhost port 3000, we're writing on Rails, so we don't have this index page available right now. So if we want to make this index page available, we'll have to do a Rails G controller pages, which is just what I'm calling the controller. And you can either call this like home, or you can call this index. We're going to call it index for this one because, I guess I have to do a spring stop probably. Yeah, and then I can do my Rails G controller. We're calling it index for this one because normally when I have a home page, I like to say, oh, this is like the root of the application. There are other routes on this application. In this case, there's really not any other like main routes that you'll be navigating as a user because a lot of all of the links in the navbar are just like a scroll down action to one of the IDs of a div on the page. So it's not like we're going to have a route for all of the different sections on the home page. So if I run the Rails S command now and we restart the server, we're not going to have a root set up for the application. So we're still here. Now, of course, we can go to /pages/index, and this should force Webpacker to compile. But now if we want to make this so that we can just go to the root of our application, we can come into config and routes.rb. And I'm mainly covering this in case this is the first week's project that you're seeing. We generally do this every week, and sometimes I go into more detail, sometimes I don't. This time I thought, this might be a common beginner tutorial, so I might as well cover some of the basics here in case you're just starting out in your first project. You thought it might be nice to do your portfolio, so that in later projects you can create your blog or create your a chat application, and then you can just put that into your portfolio project right away instead of then having to create a portfolio to point to that project. So now that we have this set up, if we just come to localhost port 3000, this will work just fine. The next thing we need to do is we need to get the stuff inside of this public index.html page. We need to get this onto our index page. So the first thing we could do is we could just copy the whole thing, come over to app, views, pages, index.html, and we could paste it in here. We could save it, and we could refresh the page. Now, there's a lot wrong here. If I open up the console, 43 errors. The main thing that I have a problem with this approach is now you have inside of your layouts application.html.erb file, you have your doc type, your HTML, your head, and your body. And then you, in this yield tag, this is what inserts this index.html page into our template here. So inside of our index.html page, we also have a doc type, we also have HTML, we also have a head, we also have a body. So I'm really not a fan of this approach. So what we could do is we could cut some of these things out. So right here, we have all of our imports that happen in the header. So let's maybe grab those, and below this JavaScript pack tag, we can paste these in. So you have two options here. You can either leave these imports in the application.html.erb's header, or you can put them inside of your application.css file. If you put it in there, obviously your link hrefs won't work, so you'll have to convert these. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm trying to keep things as in one place as possible. So my plan is to try and keep it between application and index so that you guys can see what's happening. Let's just go ahead and let's go down this list. So we have these font types, and these are going to be fine because these are just grabbing these from font Google APIs. These link href for the style sheets here, though, these are going to cause some problems because this vendor/bootstrap/css is referencing this vendor file inside of our start bootstrap inside of public. So if I come over to localhost port 3000 and I say at the end of this, I'll do / and then I try to go to /vendor/bootstrap/css /bootstrap.min.css. Wow, that's a mouthful. There's no route that matches this. And the reason for that is this is actually, if you go from just localhost port 3000 / that's your Rails asset path, so that'll work. But we have this intermediate folder here where we have all of the stuff that we just dragged in here. So if we right click, rename, and then we can copy and paste this, or you could also rename it. If we then put this in front of this vendor and then do another /, so now we have localhost port 3000 / start bootstrap, blah, 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 /vendor / whatever. If we do this, this will point to this CSS file. So that's kind of what we want to do here is whenever we see that we're requiring anything from this public package here, we just want to prefix it with start bootstrap, blah, 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 / and then put that in front of it. So if I copy this and put this in front of this font awesome and in front of this CSS agency min whatever, and I save this, and then I come over here and I save this file, we should at least see our errors on the other page go down from 43 or whatever they were. Let me come to the home page or the index page. So hopefully this time this number will be at least a little bit lower. Yeah, so now we're down to 34. So we're making progress. The other thing we can do here is we want this meta name viewport. So let's grab this, and I'm actually going to move this application here so that they're side by side. So for this, we can put this below the other meta tag. And this just makes mobile look better. We don't have a description or an author. We also, I don't think, need the UTF-8. And then for the title, right here, it's Portfolio Episode 1. You could change it to whatever. You could also leave the agency Bootstrap theme. So maybe I'll say like Dean's Portfolio here. And I'll save that. And then if I come over here and I get rid of this title and the head and this document, whatever, and then I save this, if we now refresh this page, we should see this Portfolio Episode 1 change to Dean's Portfolio. And we're down to 33 errors, which is great. We're making progress. So now that we have this, the last thing we need to do here is we need to add in this body ID because we don't want to have two bodies. So after the body, we'll paste in the body ID of page-top, and then we'll get rid of this body ID. And then we can come all the way down to the bottom here. We can get rid of this HTML and this /body, and we can save this. Now for these JavaScript tags here, I would just cut these below the body here. You can do like a footer. And then inside of the footer, you can paste these in as well. And then if we grab, if I just move this over so you guys can see, if we grab our prefix here of start bootstrap, -agency -gh -pages / and if we paste this in front of these, this will fix a lot of our errors because all of these files, like if I just pick one of these, I'll pick this JS jQuery bootstrap validation. If we come into our start bootstrap, if we come into /js, you can see right here, this is the file it's referencing. So we're just doing the same thing here. So if we save this and we save our index page, we should see the errors go down once again. And of course, you could do all of this at once, but usually when you're doing something like this, you are not going to find all of them at once. You might have, like 1,000 pages in your template, and you're going through and you're trying to fix them. It's going to take a lot longer. So you'll probably end up doing like a find and replace. And even then you might miss some because you might forget to like find and replace a URL import inside of your CSS file. Or you might forget that like you might not search for the SRCs inside of your links. That seems like it's an easier one to remember, but you get the idea. Like you can't account for everything. But now we're down to 23 errors, so that's pretty good. We're also starting to see, so if I full screen this, we're starting to see some stuff here. So we clearly fixed the image there. We have the e-commerce. We're missing some images here. And like our portfolio section, it like right here is where you have to click. But that does cause this to pop up, so that's a lot better. And you can see the pop-ups are working. Our timeline looks okay. It's still missing some stuff. Our team here is missing some stuff. But overall, if I click on services, it'll even scroll us up and I can come to start Bootstrap. So we are making some progress here. I'm going to close the application.html.erb file for now because we're going to be focusing a little bit more on our index.html page. So if I come up to the top here, we have this navbar. And if I collapse this, I can grab this entire navbar and I'll just grab it with the comments here. I can cut this. I'll save this, and then inside of layouts, I'll do a new file, and I'll call this _navbar.html.erb. And then in here, we can paste in our navbar, we can save this, and then we can refresh the page. So if we refresh the page now, our navbar is gone. We're still getting errors in our console. The reason our navbar is gone is because we don't have this navbar.html inside of our application being rendered, basically. So if we come into our application.html.erb file, if we want the navbar to be above all of the content here, we just come above the yield tag, and my computer's lagging, and then we can tab over and we can do open some Ruby code, say render, and then layouts/navbar. We can save this file. So if I do that and I come over here and I refresh the page, our navbar is back, and you can see there's even a collapse menu because it's a little bit smaller. But if I full screen it, everything looks fine. The other thing we could do is we could grab the stuff inside of the footer And we could do something similar. We could do another render for this so that our app.html.erb file looks a bit cleaner. We're going to leave this alone for right now because I'm not trying to abstract stuff like this, because usually you're fine just leaving this in the footer. I mean, it's okay to have some stuff in your application.html page. But if you start running into problems, you can, of course, abstract some of this stuff into like a render or something. So let's come into our index.html page. Now, this is a different header from the head that we have in our default HTML template. So we're okay with leaving this head here. We do need to come in here, and if I do a Control F, and I do a Control F for SRC, you can see that anytime there's an SRC, we're importing something. And this something, like in this case, is in the Start Bootstrap, IMG, Portfolio, and it looks like it's this thumbnail right here. So if I click on this, this is what we're trying to import here. And again, we're running into a problem where we have to prefix this with our Start Bootstrap folder name. So if I copy this, I come into SRC and I do Start Bootstrap and then slash. And then I'll just copy this with the slash. And anytime I see a SRC, I can just do this. Now you could do a find and replace. Like if you're in Visual Studio Code, you can click on this drop down arrow here. And you can like replace the SRC with, whatever you want. In this case, I'm sort of just going through here to cause, some semblance of repetition, similar to how you learn your math in school, right? You don't use a calculator in your grade school math, but you might use it for like your calculus class. So right now we're really working through 4th grade math. We're not trying to use all of these fancy tools to do all of this stuff, because if something goes wrong, you need to know where to look to fix all of these things. So hopefully I'm taking the right approach here. I really don't know. But hopefully this will cause you to remember, doing this. And you can always look back and say, okay, well, if this isn't working, I know what to look for at least. So I'm coming through here and I'm trying to find anywhere where there's a SRC or an image. I'm probably going to miss some. But we'll see here. So there's an SRC here, another one here, and it looks like we're getting to the bottom. So if you have VS Code, you have this preview window on the side, and there's going to be an orange bar anytime there's a line that has one of these statements. So if I come up here, I can just check real quick to make sure that I have all of these fixed. And it's looking like I missed one right here. So I can just paste it in. Alternatively, I could do a find for SRC, and I could just, go through this entire list and make sure that every SRC in here has the Start Bootstrap in front of it. And it's looking like they mostly do. These all do. And I'm getting close to the end here. So let's go ahead and let's save this. Come over to our window for the localhost port 3000, refresh the page, and if I scroll through here, we now have images for the portfolio section, our timeline has images, our amazing team has images. So I think if I hit F12 here, we're actually not getting any more errors. So this is now working exactly how we expect it to. I guess the last thing I can do is, because I have to render this before 12, so I have 2 hours to do this before we start working on Ruby for Good today. But the last thing I can do is if we come over to unsplash.com, this is a website where you can get totally free, high-quality images from amazing people. And anytime you download one of these images, you'll get a prompt to credit the person. You don't have to, but it is nice to do so. So let's come in here and let's just search for like Ruby. And let's grab, I guess we can just grab this one right here. I used this for a thumbnail recently. So if I grab this, I have my file here and I have my credit. So thank you to Reese Jenkins on Unsplash. If I grab this, I can drag it over into, like, let's say we have this public folder here. I'll just drag it into the root of the public. You can, of course, create a folder in here and you would just, name it according to that. So if I drag it into my public, Maybe I will create this folder just so you guys can see me do this. So I'll minimize our start bootstrap. Inside of public, I'll create a new folder. And inside of this, or I'll just call this like Unsplash. And inside of Unsplash, I'll drag in this Jenkins image and I'll rename it to something that's easier for us to just type in. So I'll just call this Ruby. So now we have ruby.jpg inside of our public folder. So if we come over to our index page, we need to find, let's find this, I think this is the masthead. And you're going to have to do some digging for this. So if you're looking for this, and let's say you don't know where it is. Now I did find it before, but let's say you don't know how it, where it is. So let's hit F12 in here. And let's just try to click on here somewhere. So we'll just click over here because it looks like it's grabbing something similar. And then in your styles section in your console, you can actually just scroll through here. And can I zoom in on this? I can. Okay, cool. You can scroll through here until you find what's causing this image to appear. So in this case right here, the background image, you can toggle it. So this is what we're looking for, and this is inside of the agency.min.css file. So let's come over to our folder again. And we need to find this agency.min CSS right here. Now, there's two files here. You have a min and just a default CSS. Generally, the min you're not going to be able to use, but the regular CSS you're going to be able to use. So if we come in here, apparently it's already scrolled down to the masthead. So let's just, we're looking for /ruby.jpg. So like that. So if I save this and I come over here and I refresh, that's not going to change anything because this isn't inside of the min. The min is this unreadable, unfriendly one over here. What we have to do is come into our application.html.erb file, and we're going to look for where we're including this. So right here it says custom styles for this template. Right here we're importing agency.min.css. So let's just get rid of this .min for right now, and we can refresh the page. And you can see that our image changed here. And now we have this cool Ruby background thing that does kind of make it a little hard to see the links here, but I like it. Obviously, you would want something that is a little bit darker maybe to make all of this look good. But that is one of the problems with design. You know, the image itself might look good, but what your like actual application is doing might make it a little bit off. So in this case, you don't want white text on like this white background. You might want these links to be black when your navbar isn't collapsed like this. But that gives us, you know, something to go off of. If you want to like recompile this into a min, once you have everything done, you can copy all of this. So let's come back into our application. We will undo this, so we'll make this .min.css again, and we'll refresh this page. So it's looking like that. If you come to Google, you can look for like a CSS minifier. And I guess I've gone to this one before. You can input your CSS here. You can hit minify. And then you can just copy all of this. And then we can come over to our, where is it? Our agency.min.css. And we can replace all of this. We can save it. And now if we come back here, okay, I see what I'm doing wrong here. It's looking for ruby.jpg. What we need is, because we put this inside of a folder here called Unsplash, so we need to prefix this with unsplash / ruby.jpg. So if I refresh this and I come over to our application.html.erb, and then if I do a control F5, okay, so here it's looking for Bootstrap agency pages CSS / unsplash. We're not looking for that. We're looking for /unsplash. So now if I refresh the page, it'll get us back to the image. So this is going relative to where it is in the CSS without this slash. So we do need this slash here. And now if we copy all of this and if we paste it into our minifier, and if we hit minify, And then if we grab all of the minified output, we can come into our agency min.css. We can paste this in, save it. We can then come into our application.html and we can return this to a .min.css. And now hopefully if I refresh the page, everything should still work just fine. And it looks like it does. So now you're working on the slightly faster min version of the CSS file. And if you ever want to change it, that's the entire process. And I'm going to leave this little debugging session in here because I feel like it is helpful to see that like this happens all the time. You know, if you run into a problem, you shouldn't be afraid of that. That doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. If anything, it means that you're taking a step in the right direction. But that's going to do it for this. I hope this video helps, and I will see you guys in the outro. Okay, so that's going to do it for today's episode. I'm sorry again that this is a bit of a shorter one. I say that, it's probably still like 25 minutes. But, you know, by my standards, that's pretty short because I do like to hear myself talk. Hopefully this video helps. If it did, remember to like it. If it didn't, remember to dislike it so other people aren't subjected to it. If you have questions, I will be responding to them in the comments. There is also a channel Discord and a channel subreddit. We seem to be more active in the Discord, so you can pop in there, ask a question, and there's probably going to be a bunch of people, including myself, who will be able to answer it. Probably. I'm not always 100% with being able to answer questions because I am learning a lot of this as I go as well. But that's going to do it for today. Remember, if you're a fan of the series and you're not subscribed, you should be. Or you shouldn't be. I don't know. I upload a lot, and I could see how that would be annoying. But that's enough plugging for me for today. I'll see you guys in part 3, as well as probably another part of the restaurant series soonish, as soon as I get some time. Thank you for watching and for putting up with this weird 3-day interlude where I'm trying to improvise around Ruby for Good, but charity comes first. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. That's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!